What's up guys, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the second album that came out in 2006, Sam's Town by The Killers, a Las Vegas-based band. In October I'm pretty much reviewing whatever the hell I want to, whether it be a throwback or a current album or just an album that helped mold my musical taste. Maybe even some redemption reviews. Actually, definitely some redemption reviews, because I don't like some of the old reviews that are floating around out there where I just talk about favorite and least favorite tracks. The Killers actually hold a pretty special place in my heart just because they were one of my first. You guys remember your first love? The Killers were one of them, that's for sure. Got their album Hot Fuss after one of their songs, Mr. Brightside, was placed on the first ever mix CD that I was given by a friend, and the love only continued to blossom from there. I remember getting very excited after hearing Fuse announce that they had a new album, Sam's Town, coming out in 2006. Heard the single When You Were Young on the radio, fell in love with that after about, 5 listens or so, and I just kept playing it over and over again because I ripped it off the radio to a tape and I could just rewind the cassette and play it over and over again because I was old school like that. Anyways, that was one of the songs that I fell in love with, and I remember forcing my mom essentially to drive me to Circuit City, pick up this record, and I instantly started playing it, and it was kind of overwhelming for me at the time. I guess because I was mainly, at the time I was 13 years old, I was expecting like Hot Fuss Part 2, and that's not what I was handed. This is whenever we started diving into Brandon Flowers, the lyricist and the frontman singer for this band, and his more love for like heartland rock and some Americana and that sort of thing. So it was very interesting, and his vocals even sounded a little bit different. It's not something that I really picked up on at the time, but over the years it's definitely something that I noticed. They made a conscious effort to really strip back some of the other effects that they had used on the first record, and as Flowers stated at the time, this is the first record where you're really hearing me instead of auto-tune. Now, Hot Fuss definitely is my favorite record from The Killers, but Sam's Town has given it a run for its money over the years. A lot of publications actually overlooked this. In fact, Rolling Stone pretty much destroyed it, along with Pop Matters and a couple of others, giving it very low scores. But I think it's one that's found favor with the fans over the years. Whenever Day and Age was released in 2009, I started getting back into this album again. I think I took it out of rotation for a long time, mainly because of the fact that my dad took all of my CDs, cut most of them up. I wasn't happy about that at all, but whenever Day and Age came out, I wasn't really big on that, nor am I now. That's probably my least favorite album from them. It made me want to listen to Hot Fuss and Sam's Town again, and like I said, at the time I was expecting more of the Hot Fuss styled stuff, and I'm not exactly sure why, but whenever I got into this record after 2009, maybe even 2010, I really started appreciating some of these tracks. Now, Sam's Town actually refers to a place in Las Vegas, most likely the area in general, considering that's actually where this band is from. Now, whenever Flowers sings the line, "I see London, I see Sam's Town," he's actually referring to something that the bassist Mark could see outside of his window whenever he was a child. And I love the ingenuity that kind of develops from there. We see these ideas rolling out, just getting more into memories and just diving into the past and things that this band has noted and seen over the years. Flowers howls with a fervent spirit on the opening track, the title track, one of my absolute favorites from this band. The chorus on this thing just sticks like glue, just like that, as the drums pound away and the synthesizers glow. Now, the synths weren't exactly something that I noticed at the time. They are different on this album. They're definitely a little bit more laid back. They're not as prominent as they were on tracks like Somebody Told Me, which just sound 80s dipped as possible. But on this record, they were a little bit more subtle and nuanced, and I like how they slip into a groove. You can hear them in the background in tracks like The River Is Wild and like the title track like I was just talking about. Songs that I initially ignored off of this record have actually blossomed into some of my favorite moments, like the song about everyone's favorite drugged out relative, Uncle Jonny. Jonny isn't coping with the problems of life like everyone else. He's turning to the drugs and he's got himself a bit of a... Now, Flowers, I will say, hit some pretty impressive notes with his voice on this one. He's got a nice range, and I think he really started showing that off on Sam's Town, especially the Superman moment at the beginning of the chorus. That impressed me. This is a rather sad story, but the band's upbeat performance and just the groove that you fall into with this track, especially the bass line on this thing, which is easily the best on the entire record, one of the most memorable of the Killers' career. But that's just something that you slip into. You kind of forget what the song is about from time to time, and it's odd in that way. I like that it makes you kind of think, hey, maybe this is some sort of odd off-the-wall feel-good tune, but it's not at all. The guitar kind of takes a back seat, even though it's really cool on this one. It's just kind of shredding, and it's like overlaid with a bass line that actually feels a little bit more prominent to me, and you don't see that too often. So that's something that I always thought was really special about Uncle Jonny. Another gem gets delivered to us in the story-driven track Bones, and I love how unapologetically just straightforward and blunt that this song is. It just still makes me laugh whenever I hear lines like, "I don't really like you." He just kind of admits that. You think it's going to be like this romantic setup, he's taking this girl out to the beach, but then you start noticing he's saying things like, well, she's not exactly dressed that well, and this and this and this, and then it kind of all adds up, and then he says, "I don't really like you," and I was like, oh, Brandon Flowers, he's just trying to get it in. That's basically it. He's trying to have sex with this girl, and that's it. Everything about this song's instrumental just really helps aid this track. I mean, the synths on the bridge of this tune are just very skeletal and lightweight, and I like how they push across a different mood there, and then the brass section adding a ton of structure to the chorus. Not all of the songs grip me quite as tightly though, because moments like My List just kind of stall out, leave me feeling restless, ready to move on to the next track. And I actually initially reacted the same way to the track Bling, Confessions of a King, but I ended up really coming around on that track. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a top favorite, but it's definitely worked its way up there. I came to love the build and progression that's seen on this track before it starts to fade out to just an acoustic guitar and Flowers' gentle vocals. It was actually quite a nice moment on this record. Although they aren't quite at the top in terms of my favorites, I really thought that this album had a nice back-to-back combo, two really special tracks in the form of This River is Wild and Why Do I Keep Counting. The latter of those really puts a smile on my face because we just see Flowers refusing to back down. He comes across very earnest on this track, singing over these twinkling keys and steady guitars that really just drive this home for a definite win. There's a warm feeling of genuine welcome that encompasses the listener on the track's interlude and exitlude, really just feeling like they're taking you on a listen, on a journey with the band members throughout these 12 songs. It's not necessarily something that I appreciated right away because I was like, oh, these songs are just really short, they're really boring, but it definitely, I think, helps add to just the vibe that this album puts off. It kind of builds you into the story, makes you feel like you're a part of it in some way, and that's something that's really cool and not something that I can necessarily say for every single album. There are, of course, some tracks on here that I just don't frankly care about that much, but more often than not, I find myself really enjoying this album even almost 10 years later. If anything, it is held up even better with time because I didn't fully appreciate all the little nuances and little things that ended up clicking with me years later. Now, overall, I'm not exactly sure how I'm feeling about this record for a rating. I'm going to give you guys a minute to guess in the comments section. Go ahead. I'll wait. 4 out of 5. If that's what you said, then you read my mind. All puns aside, thanks so much for watching my review of Sam's Town by The Killers. Don't forget to smash the like button while you're here and maybe subscribe to the channel because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. If you're curious, all October long, I'm going to be doing throwback and redemption reviews like I was talking about, so if you have any requests, anything that you feel like I might need to get to, an album that I missed in maybe the past 10 to 20 years that I've never talked about before, let me know with a comment down below. Other than that, I'll plan on seeing you very soon right here on ARTV.